I'm your host, Jimmy Chen. Arrgh. Hello, and welcome to my channel. If I sound a little stuffy, because I have something like allergies, I apologize. You have to bear with me. I'm I'm eccentric. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Eccentric. Now, we have left off in the book of. We are at the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 20. Absalom has just been killed. He tried to take over his father's kingdom. That's very sad when you have a son, you think he's a good son, and then he is always planning against you secretly. It seemed like he just had it all planned out, and at the last minute, sprung it on his father. So 2 Samuel 20, the next section, is titled Sheba Rebels Against David. Now a troublemaker named Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjamite, happened to be there. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, "We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, Israel." So all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Bichri. But the men of Judah stayed by their king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. So we can see, although King David is the king of Israel, the men of Israel, they are not loyal to King David. As soon as, Absalom, there's a saying, showed your true face. And then he went to Hebron and declared himself king. All of Israel, remember there are other tribes, there are these territories like states of the country or nation of Israel. All the other ones just followed Absalom. And now Sheba, remember they just got done trying to claim King David, trying to say that, King David is more king of Israel than king of Judah. And now they're just, once again, betraying King David and following Sheba and not following King David. So they followed Sheba. And verse 3, when David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines he had left to take care of the palace and put them in a house under guard. He provided for them but had no sexual relations with them. They were kept in confinement till the day of their death, living as widows. Then the king said to Amasa, "Summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days and be here yourself." But when Amasa went to summon Judah, it might be Amasa, because when there's an H, it's more ah. Amasa went to summon Judah. He took longer than the time the king had set for him. David said to Abishai, "Now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom did. Take your master's men and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and escape from us." So Joab's men and the Kerethites and Pelethites and all the mighty warriors went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. While they were at the great rock in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. Joab was wearing his military tunic. Remember, a tunic is like a shirt, and then a robe is sort of like, it goes over the tunic, and then you can have a cloak over the robe. So he was wearing his military shirt, and strapped over it at his waist was a belt with a dagger in its sheath. As he stepped forward, it dropped out of its sheath. Joab said to Amasa, "How are you, my brother?" Then Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Amasa was not on his guard against the dagger in Joab's hand, and Joab plunged it into his belly, and his intestines spilled out on the ground. Without being stabbed again, Amasa died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri. One of Joab's men stood beside Amasa and said, "Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." Amasa laid wallowing in his blood in the middle of the road, and the man saw that all the troops came to a halt there. When he realized that everyone who came up to Amasa stopped, he dragged him from the road into a field and threw a garment over him. After Amasa had been removed from the road, everyone went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel Beth Ma'akah, and through the entire region of the Bichrites, who gathered together and followed him. All the troops with Joab came and besieged Sheba in Abel Beth Ma'akah. They built a siege ramp up to the city, and it stood against the outer fortifications while they were battering the wall to bring it down. They're battering the wall. Usually I see them try to batter the door. A wise woman called from the city, "Listen, listen. Tell Joab to come here so I can speak to him." He went toward her, and she asked, "Are you Joab?" "I am," he answered. She said, "Listen to what your servant has to say." "I'm listening," he said. She continued, "Long ago, they used to say, 'Get your answer at Abel,' and that settled it. We are the peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" "Far be it from me," Joab replied. "Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this one man, and I'll withdraw from the city." Then the woman went to all the people with her wise advice, and they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he sounded the trumpet, and his men dispersed from the city, each returning to his home. And Joab went back to the king in Jerusalem. The next section is titled David's Officials. Joab was over Israel's entire army. Benaniah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Kerethites and Pelethites. Adoniram was in charge of forced labor. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was recorder. Sheba was secretary. Zadok and Abiathar were priests, and Ira, the Jairite, was David's priest. Let's move forward, keep going with 2 Samuel 21. It's exciting. 2 Samuel 21. The next section is titled The Gibeonites Avenged. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. So David sought the face of the Lord. The Lord said, "It is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house. It is because he put the Gibeonites to death." The king summoned the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not a part of Israel, but were survivors of the Amorites. The Israelites had sworn to spare them, but Saul, in his zeal for Israel and Judah, had tried to annihilate them. David asked the Gibeonites, "What shall I do for you? How shall I make atonement so that you will bless the Lord's inheritance?" The Gibeonites answered him, "We have no right to demand silver or gold from Saul or his family, nor do we have the right to put anyone in Israel to death. What do you want me to do for you?" David asked. They answered the king, "As for the man who destroyed us and plotted against us, so that we have been decimated and have no place anywhere in Israel, let 7 of his male descendants be given to us to be killed, and their bodies exposed before the Lord at Gibeah of Saul, the Lord's chosen one." So the king said, "I will give them to you." The king spared Mephibosheth, son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the oath before the Lord between David and Jonathan, son of Saul. But the king took Armoni and Mephibosheth, the 2 sons of Aiah's daughter Rizpah, whom she had borne to Saul, together with the 5 sons of Saul's daughter Merab, whom she had borne to Adriel, son of Barzillai, the Meholathite. He handed them over to the Gibeonites, who killed them and exposed their bodies on a hill before the Lord. All 7 of them fell together. They were put to death during the first days of the harvest, just as the barley harvest was beginning. Rizpah, daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on a rock from the beginning of the harvest till the rain poured down from the heavens on the bodies. She did not let the birds touch them by day, or the wild animals by night. When David was told what Aiah's daughter Rizpah, Saul's concubine, had done, he went and took the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead. They had stolen their bodies from the public square at Bethshan, where the Philistines had hung them after they struck Saul down on Gilboa. David brought the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from there, and the bones of those who had been killed and exposed were gathered up. They buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the tomb of Saul's father Kish at Zelah in Benjamin, and did everything the king commanded. After that, God answered prayer in behalf of the land. The next section is titled Wars Against the Philistines. Once again, there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. David went down with his men to fight against the Philistines, and he became exhausted. And Ishbi-Benob, one of the descendants of Rapha, whose bronze spearhead weighed 300 shekels, and who was armed with a new sword, said he would kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue. He struck the Philistine down and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "Never again will you go out with us to battle, so that the lamp of Israel will not be extinguished." In the course of time, there was another battle with the Philistines at Gob. At that time, Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, one of the descendants of Rapha. In another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jair, the Bethlehemite, killed the brother of Goliath, the Gittite. Just so you know, there's something called On the Gittite. It's in Psalm, the book of Psalm. Who had a spear with a shaft, like a weaver's rod. So Goliath, his brother, had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. So someone who weaves is, weaving, you weave cloth. So he had a special looking spear. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were descendants of Rapha in Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. Let's keep going with chapter 22. 2 Samuel 22. The next section is titled David's Song of Praise. So that may seem odd to you that King David sings, but I was taught by one of my elders that the book of Psalms, there are 150 or so. I think it's 153. Let's take a look. How many chapters? Most of them were written. It has 150 chapters. Most of them were written. What I'm saying is, most of the Psalms were written by King David. And those Psalms were sung. They were like songs. So not only did he sing, he was a songwriter and a mighty warrior and the king. Remember, he killed Goliath, the giant. David sang to the Lord the words of this song when the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. So remember, salvation is what Jesus, the Lord, is. He is salvation. Remember, he is the Lord and the Savior. You know what's strange? Jesus, his name in Hebrew is Yeshua. Yeshua. That name, it means salvation. He is Savior. He is my stronghold, my refuge, and my Savior. From violent people, you save me. I called to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and have been saved from my enemies. The waves of death swirled about me. The torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called out to the Lord. I called out to my God from his temple. He heard my voice. My cry came to his ears. The earth trembled and quaked. The foundations of the heavens shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. Tell you a secret. When he mounted the cherubim, he didn't ride, like a different kind of kadosh malakim, a holy angel warrior, and flew. This is a reference, you have to believe me, to what's called a it's a chariot. It's a merkava. Like the Lord, he's a mighty warrior who rides a chariot. And the cherubim or cherub are at the wheels. And it is pulled by, who knows? It's like an automobile. It's self-driving. But in front of the Merkava are remember, there are armies, the Kadosh Malachim armies of God, They like fly in front of him. They're like Superman, they fly, Kadosh Malachim flying in front of him. Well, you could say they're like marching in front of him. But how could they be marching? He's in a... It's like they're pulling his Merkava, but no, Kadosh Malachim are not like huskies or reindeer or horses. They are people. So they're like either running like Flash, super fast, or they're like flying like Superman. Because if you had to pick one, do you think the Lord, he is God of the Creator, he is the Lord, it's Jesus, he's mighty, he's a guy that crushed Egypt and divided the waves of the Red Sea, and then smashed them onto the Pharaoh's army. If you had to pick one, does he move fast, quickly, or slow? I would say he moves fast, so that's a secret. He mounted his chariot, his Merkava, and he soared on the wings of the wind. See, that's fast. He made darkness his canopy around him, the dark rain clouds of the sky. I used to call the Lord, he could be the lion of darkness. He is called the Lion of Judah, Ha-Aryeh, Ha-Yehudah. But what I mean by the Lion of Darkness is he could get extremely angry and look extremely frightening, This description, I'm scared. The dark rain clouds of the sky, out of the brightness of his presence, bolts of lightning blazed forth. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy. With great bolts of lightning he routed them. The valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare at the rebuke of the Lord, at the blast of breath from his nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. Remember, he was dying. King David's song was, remember, the waves of death swirled about him. Torrents of destruction overwhelmed him. The cords of the grave were coiling around him. These snares of death were confronting him right in front of him. So he reached down and took hold of King David and drew him out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster. But the Lord was my support. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. For I have kept the ways of the Lord. I am not guilty of turning from my God. All his laws are before me. I have not turned away from his decrees. I have been blameless before him and have kept myself from sin. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to my cleanness in his sight. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To the blameless, you show yourself blameless. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the devious, you show yourself shrewd. You save the humble, but your eyes are on the haughty to bring them low. You, Lord, are my lamp. The Lord turns my darkness into light. With your help, I can advance against a troop. With my God, I can scale a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless. He shields all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord? And who is the rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and keeps my way secure. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He causes me to stand on the heights. I think what King David means is, deer have different feet. They have hooves. But, you think, you're like, Jimmy, why would you want to have feet like a deer? You have to watch some YouTube videos. Like deer or like ram, sheep, they all have like these hoovy feet. And, like you can see them, sometimes they're on like a mountain or a hill or like a rocky hill, and they won't fall. I've gone, what is it called? Hiking, and it's pretty hard. Sometimes I almost fell down. But animals like deer, again, like rams and sheep, they have no problem like walking all over hills and mountains and like rocky mountains. They can just stand out there and they can go up, they can climb up, they run up. Somehow they can run down and not like fall over. They won't fall over. So it just means that God like secures your feet, like you won't fall down. God will not let you fall down. He trains my hands for battle. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You make your saving help my shield. Your help has made me great. You provide a broad path for my feet, so that my ankles do not give way. I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them completely, and they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet. You armed me with strength for battle. You humbled my adversaries before me. You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I beat them as fine as the dust of the earth. I pounded and trampled them like mud in the streets. You have delivered me from the attacks of the peoples. You have preserved me as the head of nations. People I did not know now serve me. Foreigners cower before me. So remember, foreigners here are not the foreigners we think of nowadays. What he means by foreigners are just, I don't know, they're from really, really far away. Because remember I said it's a different time. So a foreigner back then was someone they had no idea. Like, you have to ask them. They look funny, they wear funny clothes, they probably spoke a different language. You have to ask them, like, where are you from? They were from really far away. As soon as they hear of me, they obey me. They all lose heart. They come trembling from their strongholds. The Lord lives. Praise be to my rock. Exalted be my God, the rock, my Savior. He is the God who avenges me, who puts the nations under me, who sets me free from my enemies. You exalted me above my foes. From a violent man you rescued me. Therefore I will praise you, Lord. Among the nations I will sing the praises of your name. He gives his king great victories. He shows unfailing kindness to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. Let's go to the next chapter. We're almost done with 2 Samuel 23. The next section is titled David's Last Words. So David is going to die. These are the last words of David, the inspired utterance of David, son of Jesse, the utterance of the man exalted by the Most High, the man anointed by the God of Jacob, the hero of Israel's songs. The Spirit of the Lord spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The Rock of Israel said to me, when one rules over people in righteousness, when he rules in the fear of God, he is like the light of morning at sunrise on a cloudless morning, like the brightness after rain that brings grass from the earth. If my house were not right with God, surely, I didn't say surely. Surely, Surely. There's a funny movie. I think it's Airplane. It's a very, very old movie. And then someone said, there are two people talking. One person goes, surely you can't be serious. And the guy goes, I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. I don't know. I thought it was funny. Surely he would not have made with me an everlasting covenant, arranged and secured in every part. Surely he would not bring to fruition my salvation and grant me my every desire. But evil men are all to be cast aside like thorns, which are not gathered with the hand. Whoever touches thorns uses a tool of iron or the shaft of a spear. They are burned up where they lie. The next section is titled David's Mighty Warriors. Sometimes you call them his mighty men. But these are the names of David's mighty warriors. Josheb, Bas, Shebeth, a Takamonite. Takamonite sounds Japanese. Takamonite. He's a Tanaka. No, he's a Takamonite. Was chief of the three. He raised his spear against 800 men, whom he killed in one encounter. Next to him was Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohite. As one of the three mighty warriors, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines gathered at Pas Damim for battle. Then the Israelites retreated, but Eleazar stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. The troops returned to Eleazar, but only to strip the dead. To strip the dead is to take their weapons, sometimes their armor. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. Did you know that Aki means my brother in Hebrew. So you can say, hey, Aki. Hey, my brother. But his name is Agi. But he's from a strange people. They're called Hararites. When the Philistines banded, well, they're not strange people, but it's hard to say. The Hararites, when the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field. He defended it and struck the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory. During harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief warriors came down to David at the cave of Adullam, while a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. At that time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David longed for water. So we see longed here is he was very thirsty. Yep. And said, or needed. David needed water. I think needed is a good word. Longed could be needed. No, not like you need dough, but you need it because if you don't have it, it's bad, There's a difference between what you need and what you want. What you want is like you desire it. Sometimes you don't have to have what you want, but you have to have what you need, because what you need is more important. But it's boring, it's boring. If you get what you want, it's more exciting, So David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the 3 mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. Remember, these are warriors, so they drank wine. They drank wine. Remember, in wineskins, they put wine in animal skins. So they just drank alcohol a lot. And they probably, I don't know, maybe it was 50-50, half of the time, well, no, I don't think so. I think they drank more wine, alcohol, than water. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. "Far be it from me, Lord, to do this," he said. "Is it not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives, and David would not drink it?" Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty warriors. Abishai, the brother of Joab, son of Zeruiah, was chief of the 3. He raised his spear against 300 men, whom he killed, and so he became as famous as the 3. Was he not held in greater honor than the 3? He became their commander, even though he was not included among them. Benaniah, son of Jehoiada. That's a hard name to say too. That's a hard, name to say. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, a valiant fighter from Kabzeel, performed great exploits. he struck down Moab's 2 mightiest warriors. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. Killed a lion, the animal, a lion. And he struck down a huge Egyptian. Although the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club. He snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. He too was as famous as the 3 mighty warriors. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30, but he was not included among the 3, and David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Among the 30 were Asahel, brother of Joab. So you got to remember, Asahel died early on, but he's one of the 30. Elchanan, son of Dodo, from Bethlehem. Shammah, the Harodite. Elika, the Harodite. Helez, the Paltite. Ira, son of Ikesh, from Tekoa. Abiezer, from Anathoth. Sibbecai, the Hushathite. Zalmon, the Ahohite. Maharai, let's see. I think it's Mahare. Mahare, the Netophathite. Heled, son of Baana, the Netophathite. Ethai, son of Ribai. I think it's Ribai. Well, we'll go with Ribai. Ribai, it sounds like a ribeye steak. Ribai from Gibeah in Benjamin. Benaiah. See, I'm getting, my eyes are going. Benaiah, the Pirathonite. Hide, or, I think it's better to pronounce it I. Hidai, from the ravines of Gaash. Abi Alban, the Arbathite. Azmaveth, the Barhumite. Eliaba, the Sha'albonite, the sons of Jashen. Jonathan, son of Shammah, the Hararite. Ahiam, son of Sharar, the Hararite. Eliphelet, son of Ahazbai, the Maakathite. So that's Eliphelet, son of Ahazbai, the Maakathite. Eliam, son of Ahithophel, the Gilonite. Hezro, the Carmelite. Paarai, the Arbite. Igal, son of Nathan, from Zobah, the son of Hagri. Zelek, the Ammonite. Naharai, the Beerothite, the armor bearer of Joab. son of Zeruiah, Erah the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, and Uriah the Hittite. There were 37 in all. Let's go to 2 Samuel 24. 2 Samuel 24. The next section is titled, David Enrolls the Fighting Men. Again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, Go and take a census of Israel and Judah. So remember, this kingdom, right, David's kingdom, because he's the king, it's split into two, Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Israel is lame, they're not loyal. Judah is loyal. So the king said to Joab and the army commanders with him, Go throughout the tribes of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, and enroll the fighting men, so that I may know how many there are. But Joab replied to the king, May the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times over, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king want to do such a thing? The king's word, however, overruled Joab and the army commanders, so they left the presence of the king to enroll the fighting men of Israel. After crossing the Jordan, they camped near Aroer, south of the town, in the gorge, and then went through Gad and on to Jazer. They went to Gilead and the region of Tatim Hadshi, and on to Dan Ja'an and around toward Sidon. Then they went toward the fortress of Tyre, and all the towns of the Hivites and Canaanites. Finally, they went on to Beersheba in the Negev of Judah. After they had gone through the entire land, they came back to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. Joab reported the number of the fighting men to the king. In Israel there were 800,000 able-bodied men who could handle a sword, and in Judah 500,000. David was conscience-stricken after he had counted the fighting men, and he said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. Now, Lord, I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have done a very foolish thing. Before David got up the next morning, the word of the Lord had come to Gad the prophet, David's seer. Go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. So Gad went to David and said to him, Shall there come on you 3 years of famine in your land, or 3 months of fleeing from your enemies while they pursue you, or 3 days of plague in your land? Now then, think it over and decide how I should answer the one who sent me. David said to Gad, I am in deep distress. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great. But do not let me fall into human hands. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning until the end of the time designated. And 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. When the angel, remember these are Kadosh Malakim, holy angel warriors, when the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning the disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, enough, withdraw your hand. The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was striking down the people, he said to the Lord, I have sinned. The shepherd have done wrong. I have sinned. I, the shepherd, have done wrong. These are but sheep. What have they done? Let your hand fall on me and my family. The next section is titled, David Builds an Altar. On that day, Gad went to David and said to him, Go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David went up as the Lord had commanded through Gad. When Araunah looked and saw the king and his officials coming toward him, he went out and bowed down before the king with his face to the ground. Araunah said, Why has my lord the king come to his servant to buy your threshing floor? David answered, So I can build an altar to the Lord, that the plague on the people may be stopped. Araunah said to David, Let my lord the king take whatever he wishes and offer it up. Here are oxen for the burnt offering, and here are threshing sledges, not sleds. And here are threshing sledges and ox yokes for the wood. Your Majesty, Araunah gives all this to the king. Araunah also said to him, May the Lord your God accept you. But the king replied to Araunah, No, I insist on paying you for it. I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen and paid 50 shekels of silver for them. David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Lord answered his prayer in behalf of the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. We did it. I did it. That is the book of 2 Samuel. Thank you for listening. Remember, King David is a very important character, but I believe he really lived a long time ago. In the Holy Bible, he is possibly the mightiest, maybe even mightier than Joshua, Yehoshua. A lot of people think that he was a good king, but obviously, after reading very carefully, he was a powerful warrior. Not only that, he was a great prophetic person, a great prophet, and then he was able to offer sacrifices and offerings like a priest. So he's cool. He's cool. So remember, keep God first. He'll take you places.